The United Kingdom is home to more than just history. Some of its houses hold something far darker. Places where the past refuses to stay buried. Where whispered voices echo through empty halls. Where shadows move when no one is there. Tonight, we step inside 15 of the most haunted houses in the UK. Places where terror isn't just a story, it's a reality. These are not folklore or campfire tales. These are documented encounters, chilling eyewitness reports, and evidence that defies logic. From the infamous Borley Rectory, where the ghost of a sorrowful nun still roams, to 30 East Drive, where an unseen force tormented a family for years, these locations are not just haunted. They are infested with something beyond our understanding. We'll uncover the eerie sightings at Treasurer's House, where a plumber came face to face with a troop of Roman soldiers, and Rainham Hall, home to the chilling apparition of the Brown Lady, one of the most famous ghost photographs ever captured. And we've saved the most horrifying for last. These aren't just buildings. They are prisons for the past, filled with echoes that refuse to be silenced. Some say ghosts don't exist, but after tonight, you might not be so sure. Are you ready? Are you brave enough? Then step inside, if you dare. Haunted House Number 1, Borley Rectory, Essex. Hidden deep in the quiet countryside of Essex stood a house so terrifying. It was once called the most haunted house in England. Borley Rectory was built in 1862, a towering Victorian structure surrounded by dense trees and a strange, unsettling silence. For decades, it was a place of whispered legends, where the dead refused to rest. At first glance, it seemed like any other rectory, a grand home for the local clergy. But the land it stood on held secrets far older than the house itself. Stories whispered through the village spoke of a tragic nun, bricked up alive within the walls of a nearby monastery after falling in love with a monk. Their forbidden love ended in death, and her restless spirit was said to roam the grounds, forever searching for her lost love. It started with small, unexplained noises. Phantom footsteps in the dead of night, the sound of a woman sobbing when no one was there. But soon, the spirits grew bolder. Objects moved on their own, doors slammed shut without warning, and ghostly whispers echoed through the halls. Then came the sightings. The shadowy figure of a nun, gliding through the garden, her face pale, her eyes hollow and empty. Witnesses spoke of cold hands brushing against them, invisible forces pulling at their clothes, and sudden chills that left them breathless. The most terrifying of all, messages scrawled on the walls, pleas for help, written by an unseen hand. Paranormal investigators flocked to Borley Rectory, eager to uncover the truth. Among them was renowned researcher Harry Price, who spent years documenting the hauntings. He witnessed objects flying across rooms, unexplained fires breaking out, and ghostly figures appearing in photographs. But in 1939, the house met a fiery end. A mysterious blaze consumed the rectory, reducing it to ruins. Some say it was an accident. Others believe the spirits had finally had enough. Even today, the land where Borley Rectory once stood carries an eerie presence. Visitors still report the sounds of footsteps, faint whispers on the wind, and, on rare occasions, the chilling sight of a veiled figure in white, standing among the shadows. And if you think that was terrifying, wait until you hear about the next house on our list. A place where a spirit named Fred doesn't just haunt the living, he attacks them. Haunted House Number 2, 30 East Drive, Pontefract, Yorkshire. At first glance, 30 East Drive looks like any other ordinary house on a quiet Yorkshire street. But behind its doors lurks something far more sinister, something that has terrorized those who dared to live within its walls. In the late 1960s, the Pritchard family moved in, unaware of the horror that awaited them. It started subtly, lights flickering, strange cold spots, an unsettling feeling of being watched. Then, the disturbances escalated. Furniture moved on its own. Pools of water formed with no explanation. A thick, green foam oozed from the taps, defying all logic. And then came Fred. That's what they called the entity haunting the house. A force that delighted in torment. A force that left no doubt it was real. The most chilling incident. Diane, the Pritchard's teenage daughter, was dragged up the stairs by an unseen force, kicking, screaming, clawing at the carpet as invisible hands pulled her away. The family fled, but the activity never stopped. Even now, visitors report shadowy figures, sudden drops in temperature, and the overwhelming sensation of not being alone. What lingers here? A restless spirit? Or something far worse? And this was only the beginning. Stay with us, because the next house on our list has a history so disturbing, even the bravest refuse to enter after dark. Haunted house number 3, Plasteg, Wales. Deep in the Welsh countryside, shrouded in mist and silence, stands Plasteg, a Jacobean mansion with a tragic past. Its grand halls and towering staircases whisper secrets of centuries long gone and of those who never left. One of the most frequented spirits here is that of Dorothy, a young girl who met a horrifying end. She fell to her death down the great staircase, her cries echoing through the house. Even today, visitors report seeing her pale figure standing at the top, before vanishing into thin air. But Dorothy is not alone. So John Trevor, the original owner, has been seen wandering the halls, his footsteps heavy, his presence unsettling. Some say he is searching, but for what? No one knows. Disembodied cries drift through the mansion at night, and the sound of slow, deliberate footsteps follows those who dare to walk its corridors. Many have entered Plasteg. Few leave without feeling watched. And if you think this was chilling, our next location holds a darker secret, one that has terrified even the most hardened investigators. Are you ready to continue? Haunted house number 4, the ancient Ram Inn, Gloucestershire. Tucked away in the quiet village of Wootton-under-Edge stands one of the most feared buildings in Britain, the ancient Ram Inn. Its crumbling stone walls and sagging roof tell a story of centuries past, but what lurks inside is far older, far darker. This is no ordinary haunted house. Built on an ancient pagan burial ground and sitting directly on a powerful ley line, the inn has absorbed centuries of suffering. It has seen rituals, sacrifices, and death. One of its most infamous spirits is a witch, said to have been burned at the stake on these very grounds. Her tormented presence lingers. Many who have stayed in the witch's room report waking up unable to move, as if unseen hands are holding them down. Others have seen her shadow creeping across the walls, her whispers curling through the darkness. But she is not alone. Apparitions roam the halls, their forms flickering in and out of sight. Guests have felt ice-cold hands grip their shoulders, been pushed violently by unseen forces, and fled in terror as their belongings were hurled across the room. The air grows heavy, suffocating, as if something is watching, waiting. For those who dare to enter, the ancient Ram Inn offers more than ghost stories. It offers an experience you'll never forget if you make it out. Some places whisper their hauntings. Others scream. And the next house on our list, it doesn't just haunt you, it breaks you. Haunted house number 5, Ham House, London. Nestled on the banks of the Thames, Ham House is a place of grandeur and ghosts. Built in the 17th century, its lavish halls once echoed with the laughter of nobility. But now, they whisper with something else, something unseen, something unrelenting. The most infamous spirit trapped within these walls is Lady Elizabeth Murray, the Duchess of Lauderdale. Ambitious, ruthless, and fiercely protective of her wealth, it's said she made a pact with dark forces to hold on to her power. But death didn't free her from Ham House, it bound her to it forever. Visitors speak of sudden drops in temperature, as if a presence brushes past them. The unmistakable scent of Elizabeth's perfume lingers in the air, creeping through the corridors long after closing time. Some have even glimpsed a shadowy figure drifting silently through the long gallery, a place where the Duchess once spent hours in contemplation, and perhaps in regret. But the most disturbing encounters happen when night falls. Children's cries echo from empty rooms, their sob carrying through the vast, silent halls. Some guests report hearing whispers in their ears, voices that fade the moment they turn around. Others have seen furniture shift on its own, as if an unseen force is still rearranging the house as it once was. Ham House is more than just a relic of the past. It's a place where history refuses to rest. But if you think this is unsettling, what if I told you our next haunted location is home to something even darker? A presence that doesn't just reveal itself, it interacts with those who dare to enter. Before we move on, ask yourself this. Would you step inside a house knowing its past inhabitants never left? Or would you turn back at the door, knowing once you enter, you might not walk out the same? Let me know in the comments below. And if you've made it this far, prove you're brave enough by hitting that like button and subscribing. Because we're just getting started. And trust me, you won't want to miss what's coming next. Haunted House Number 6, Chillingham Castle, Northumberland. Deep in the rugged Northumberland countryside stands Chillingham Castle, a place with a history steeped in blood and terror. Though it bears the title of a castle, the rooms within these ancient walls hold the kind of nightmares one would expect in the most haunted of houses. Chillingham was once a stronghold of war and torture, its dungeons and execution chambers filled with the screams of the condemned. Perhaps that's why it remains one of the most paranormally active locations in all of England. The most famous spirit trapped here is the Radiant Boy. Many who have stayed in the castle's pink room have reported the same terrifying sequence: a sudden, ice-cold chill, then a blinding blue light appearing from nowhere, followed by the tormented cries of a child echoing through the stone walls. What's even more disturbing, when renovations uncovered the skeletal remains of a young boy hidden within the walls, it confirmed the legend. Was he imprisoned? Starved? Buried alive? No one knows for sure, but his ghost continues to search for peace he will never find. Then, there's the White Pantry Ghost, a desperate, sorrowful figure that appears in the castle's pantry. She begs for water, vanishing before anyone can respond. Many believe she was once a servant, poisoned in this very room, doomed to eternally relive her final, agonizing moments. But these are just two of the restless spirits that haunt Chillingham Castle. Doors slam shut on their own. Heavy footsteps echo down empty corridors. Some visitors feel unseen hands clutching at their clothes, as if warning them to leave. And perhaps the most unsettling thought, some who have visited claim they left with more than just a ghost story. They left with a presence, one that followed them home. So, if you ever visit Chillingham Castle, listen carefully before you sleep. Because something, or someone, might be listening to you, too. Haunted House Number 7, Rainham Hall, Norfolk. Rainham Hall stands in the quiet Norfolk countryside, its grand facade concealing a chilling legend that has endured for centuries. This stately home is famous not just for its history but for one of the most famous ghost photographs ever taken. The tale centers around Lady Dorothy Walpole, better known as the Brown Lady of Rainham Hall. Once a woman of status and beauty, her story turned to tragedy. Some say she was locked away in a remote room by her jealous husband, kept in isolation until the day she died. Others claim she was imprisoned to stop her from seeing a secret lover. Whatever the truth, one thing is certain: her spirit never left. For years, visitors and residents alike have seen her ghostly figure drifting through the halls, clad in a faded brown gown, her face hollow and expressionless. Servants reported candles flickering out as she passed, doors creaking open on their own, and the sensation of invisible eyes watching them from the shadows. But the most chilling moment came in 1936, when two photographers from Country Life magazine set up their camera on the grand staircase. What they captured would become one of the most infamous paranormal images in history. A hazy, ghost-like figure was seen descending the stairs, her form unmistakable. Skeptics called it a trick of the light, but those who have seen her with their own eyes know otherwise. Even today, guests have reported an eerie presence lingering near the staircase, a soft rustling sound when no one is there, and a chilling sense of sorrow hanging in the air. But is Lady Dorothy truly at rest? Or does she still walk these halls, waiting for someone to finally uncover the truth of her fate? Some places hold history, others hold ghosts. Rainham Hall? It holds both. Haunted House Number 8, Treasurer's House, York. In the heart of York, where layers of history run deep beneath the streets, stands Treasurer's House, a place where the past isn't just remembered. It still walks. This grand house is famous for one of the most startling ghost encounters ever recorded, not of a noblewoman or a restless servant, but of something far older. an entire legion of Roman soldiers. In 1953, a plumber named Harry Martindale was working alone in the cellar when he suddenly heard the distant sound of a horn, low, echoing, growing louder. Then, without warning, they appeared. A line of Roman soldiers, clad in worn tunics, sandals, and armor, marched straight through the cellar wall. But something was strange. They weren't walking on the current floor. Their feet moved several inches below it, as if they were marching along an ancient road buried beneath the house. Frozen in shock, Harry watched them pass, their expressions empty, their eyes fixed ahead. The last soldier, a weary-looking man with a plumed helmet, turned his head slightly, as if sensing something or someone. Then, just as suddenly as they appeared, they vanished. When Harry fled upstairs and told his story, historians confirmed something chilling. Beneath Treasurer's house lay the remains of an ancient Roman road, hidden under centuries of construction. Harry had unknowingly witnessed a ghostly imprint of the past, trapped in time. Even today, visitors have reported cold gusts in the cellar, faint echoes of footsteps, and a heavy, oppressive feeling, as if unseen eyes are still watching. History leaves its mark in many ways, but in Treasurer's house, it refuses to fade. Haunted House Number 9, Blickling Hall, Norfolk. In the quiet countryside of Norfolk, Blickling Hall stands as a grand and elegant estate. But beneath its beauty lies a chilling legend, one tied to one of England's most tragic and infamous figures, Anne Boleyn. Every year, on the anniversary of her execution, the ghost of Henry VIII's ill-fated queen is said to return home. But what makes her apparition truly disturbing is that she arrives without a head. As the night deepens, an eerie mist rolls across the estate, and witnesses have reported hearing the distant rumble of horse-drawn wheels. Then, from the darkness, a phantom carriage emerges, drawn by headless horses and driven by a headless coachman. Inside sits Anne Boleyn, cradling her severed head in her hands, her expression frozen in sorrow. The ghostly coach never lingers. It moves silently across the grounds before vanishing into the night. But her presence doesn't end there. Inside the halls of Blickling, strange occurrences continue. Candles flicker without wind. The faint rustle of skirts is heard in empty corridors, and visitors have reported a heavy, sorrowful presence lingering in the air. And Boleyn may have lost her life at the hands of a king, but at Blickling Hall, her spirit has never left. Haunted House Number 10, Charlton House, London. Tucked away in Greenwich, London, Charlton House stands as a stunning example of Jacobean architecture. But beyond its grand facade, the house carries a darker reputation, one of whispers, unseen presences, and figures that appear and vanish just as quickly. Visitors have long reported phantom footsteps echoing through its long corridors, disembodied voices murmuring in empty rooms, and the overwhelming feeling of being watched. But the most chilling sighting of all is that of the White Lady. She is often seen drifting through the upper rooms, her pale form barely more than a shadow in the dim light. Some say she is the spirit of a former resident, lost in grief, forever roaming the house she once called home. Others believe she's searching for something, or someone, unable to rest. But she's not alone. A young boy's apparition has also been spotted, peering out from behind doorways or standing at the foot of beds before fading into nothingness. For those who have spent the night at Charlton House, the feeling is always the same, as if something is waiting in the darkness, just beyond sight. And we're not done yet. If you think Charlton House is unsettling, our next haunted location will take us somewhere even darker, where trapped souls cry out and shadows refuse to stay still. Make sure you're subscribed, and let me know in the comments. Would you dare step inside one of these haunted homes, alone? Haunted House Number 11, Llancaig Vawr Manor, Wales. Deep in the Welsh valleys, Llancaig Vawr Manor stands as a perfectly preserved Tudor home, its heavy stone walls and dimly lit rooms whispering secrets of the past. But something else lingers here, something unseen yet undeniably present. This centuries-old manor is said to be haunted by the spirits of those who once lived within its walls. Cold spots appear suddenly, even in the warmth of summer. Disembodied voices echo through empty rooms. and those who visit often report the same unsettling sensation, as if unseen eyes are watching them. Among the many spirits said to reside here, one is particularly active. His name is Matty, a young boy believed to have worked in the manor during its Tudor days. Guests have heard his laughter, his footsteps on the creaking floors, even the faint sound of childish whispers. Some say he tugs at clothing, as if trying to get their attention. Others have seen a small shadow darting across hallways, only to vanish into thin air. And Matty is not alone. Many visitors have encountered a woman in period dress, standing at the top of the stairs. She never speaks. She simply stays until she disappears. Lancaig Vower is a place where the past refuses to stay buried, where spirits seem to linger, unwilling or unable to leave. But if you thought this was chilling, wait until you hear what haunts our next location. Make sure you're subscribed and tell me in the comments. Would you spend a night in a place where the spirits never sleep? Haunted House Number 12, Dalston Hall, Cumbria. Nestled in the quiet countryside of Cumbria, Dalston Hall stands as a medieval relic, its thick stone walls whispering tales of centuries past. But among its many stories, one refuses to fade. This grand hall is said to be haunted by the White Lady, an ethereal figure who drifts silently through its corridors. Many believe she is the ghost of Mary Radcliffe, a woman whose life was cut short under tragic circumstances. Her presence is unmistakable. Guests have reported sudden drops in temperature, the feeling of an unseen hand brushing against them, and the eerie sensation of being watched. Some wake in the dead of night to strange noises, soft weeping, footsteps echoing in the empty halls. Others have seen her with their own eyes, a pale figure standing at the foot of their bed, her sorrowful gaze locked on them before she simply vanishes. Even the staff refuse to dismiss the stories. Many avoid certain rooms after dark, unwilling to tempt whatever lingers in the shadows of Dalston Hall. But if the White Lady's mournful spirit unsettles you, then prepare yourself. Our next location holds something far more sinister. Haunted House Number 13, The Cage, St. Osyth, Essex. In the quiet village of St. Osyth, an unassuming cottage hides a dark past. This was no ordinary home. It was a medieval prison, once used to hold those accused of witchcraft. Among its most infamous prisoners was Ursula Kemp, a woman condemned and hanged in 1582. But death did not bring her peace. Those who have lived in the cage report unexplainable disturbances, objects moving on their own, heavy footsteps echoing through empty rooms, and an ever-present feeling of being watched. Some have even seen the ghostly figure of a woman standing in the dim light, watching them, before vanishing without a trace. Many who have spent a night here refuse to ever return. Some believe it is Ursula seeking justice. Others whisper that something far more sinister resides within these walls. And then there are those who dare to enter, only to leave with scratches on their skin and nightmares they can never escape. But the real question is, if you stepped inside the cage, would you make it through the night? Haunted House Number 14, Newton House, Wales. Hidden deep within the rolling greenery of Dynford Park lies a grand yet ominous structure, Newton House. With its striking Gothic facade and ancient stone walls, the house seems to whisper its dark history to those who dare to approach. But step inside, and the past closes in around you. The air here is heavy, thick with something unseen. A creeping chill lingers in the corridors, where shadowy figures have been spotted gliding through the dim candlelight. Some claim to have heard faint whispers, as if the house itself is trying to speak. But the most infamous presence here is the White Lady, believed to be the restless spirit of Lady Eleanor Cavendish, a woman who met a gruesome fate. Murdered by her jealous husband, her spirit is said to remain trapped within these walls, forever seeking an escape. Visitors have reported piercing screams echoing through empty hallways, sudden icy touches on their skin, and the overwhelming sensation of being watched from the shadows. Some have even claimed to see her ghostly form, drifting mournfully through the corridors, her white gown flowing as if caught in an invisible breeze, her face frozen in an expression of sorrow and terror. But Lady Eleanor is not alone. Many who have dared to spend the night here have spoken of an unseen force pressing down on their chest as they sleep, a terrifying sensation as if someone, or something, is trying to suffocate them. Others have described feeling their hair being pulled, doors slamming shut on their own, and a whispering voice calling their name when no one else was there. Is it Eleanor, crying out for help? Or is there something even darker lurking within these walls? One thing is certain. Those who visit Newton House often leave with a story, but not all of them return willing to tell it. Would you dare to walk its halls, knowing you might not walk alone? Haunted House Number 15, the Skirrid Mountain Inn, Wales. At the foot of Skirrid Mountain, shrouded in mist and history, stands one of the oldest and most haunted inns in Wales, the Skirrid Mountain Inn. But this isn't just any ordinary pub. Within these ancient stone walls, death has left its mark, and some say the spirits of the condemned have never left. This inn was once a courtroom, where sentences were not just passed, but carried out. The upper floor, now a guest room, once served as an execution chamber. Over 180 men met their fate here, their bodies left dangling from a wooden beam still visible today. Step inside, and the weight of history presses down. The air is thick with something unseen. Some visitors describe a sudden tightness around their throats, as if an invisible noose is tightening. Others have felt an icy hand graze their shoulder, or heard the faint creak of a rope swaying, even when no one else was there. One of the most infamous spirits here is Judge Jeffries, known as the Hanging Judge. His ruthless sentences sent countless men to their deaths, and some say his presence lingers, watching, waiting. Disembodied voices have been heard in the dead of night, whispering in the darkness. Footsteps echo through empty corridors. Shadowy figures appear, only to vanish the moment they are seen. And then there are the screams. Guests have awoken to blood-curdling cries, echoing as if from another time. Some claim to have seen the ghostly figure of a man dangling from the rafters, his face contorted in silent agony. Others have fled in terror, swearing never to return. The question is, if you spend the night here, would you make it until morning? We've explored some of the most haunted houses in the UK, each with its own terrifying history and lingering spirits. From shadowy figures to disembodied voices, violent poltergeists to chilling apparitions. These are not just legends, but real accounts from those who have dared to step inside. Think back to the Brown Lady of Rainham Hall, forever descending the grand staircase. The tormented souls of the Skirrid Mountain Inn, still bound to the place of their execution. The poltergeist of 30 East Drive, relentlessly tormenting anyone who enters. These stories may seem like something out of a horror movie, but they come from eyewitnesses, investigators, and even historical records. The question is, how much do you believe? There's something deeply unsettling about these locations. A reminder that history is never truly gone, that the past, in some places, refuses to rest. But why do some spirits linger? Is it unfinished business, a tragic fate, or something far more sinister? Even skeptics who enter these places feel something they can't explain, an icy breath on the back of their neck, an eerie presence watching from the darkness. And what about you? Would you dare to spend the night in one of these houses? Would you be brave enough to listen for whispers in the dark, knowing they might whisper back? Now, I want to hear from you. Which of these haunted locations do you think is the most terrifying? Have you ever experienced something paranormal yourself? Drop your story in the comments below, and let's see just how many of us have brushed against the unknown. And if you enjoyed this journey into the paranormal, hit that like button, share and subscribe to the Real Ghost Stories channel, because there are even darker places waiting to be explored. Some doors, once opened, can never be closed.